Hi, this is Adina here with today's episode of Courage to be Curious with Adina Tobel and Amy Steinler. And we are beginning the month of November. And if you've been following us for a while, you might know that each year in the month of November, for the last, I don't know, maybe it's 3, 4 years, we have featured the You Matter Marathon. And we're not only going to be featuring that this month and talking to our guest today, Cheryl Rice, who is the founder of this, but we're actually going to carry this theme through the entire month. Appreciation, letting people know that they matter, and having this come genuinely from the heart. As we're going to talk about today, we are living in times where expressing our appreciation, finding ways to meaningfully connect, letting people know that they really matter because we're living in a harsh world at harsh times is so important. So what we're hoping you're going to do is that you're going to take this episode, see it as a leap into an entire month-long conversation here, and then be inspired to take action for this month with us. We're going to give you some ways to do that and keep tuning in. So that's my hope and wish for where we're headed this month. And to bring us into today's episode, as I said, Amy's going to be with me as co-host. And since she's never spoken to the guest that we have today, who I've spoken to in the past before, she's going to take much of the lead. But our guest today is Cheryl Rice. And Cheryl is the president of Cheryl Rice Leadership. She has been working with leaders for like a long time now. She is a speaker, an author, and a coach. And she works with helping women to be leaders in their own lives. She is also the founder of the nonprofit You Matter Marathon. You can find it at youmattermarathon.com, but we'll talk more about that. No running required. We'll hear more about that. And I'm so excited, Cheryl, to have you with us today to kick off this conversation about appreciation and letting people know they matter. Welcome.
Thank you. It's delightful to be with you and to have Amy in the conversation. It's just joyful. So thank you so much for your commitment to this vital message. Thank you, Adina.
You're welcome. So
let's talk.
Go ahead, Amy.
Let's talk about You Matter. Yeah, You Matter Marathon. I'm so curious about why it even exists. What's behind the You Matter Marathon? What's the foundational belief that led you to create and sustain this organization?
Well, I would say that the organization happened almost before I truly realized the belief. But what we have come to acknowledge is that we believe that the world would be a more peaceful and joyful place if every person knew in their bones that they matter. And we believe that the path to a more peaceful and joyful world begins with daily acts of connecting in positive and sincere ways that honor our common humanity and honor the significance of the other. And that one way to do that, to affirm the significance of ourselves and others, is by these daily actions. And in the case of the You Matter Marathon, it is in sharing cards that say you matter. You matter. So those are our beliefs that underline our organization. And our mission is to create positive connections within and between individuals.
And it sounds like we were talking earlier and you were mentioning research, that your research has sort of backed up this assertion that the world will be a better place. What can you tell me about that? What is the research telling you?
Well, and if I may, Amy, just so everybody listening has a context of what we're researching and what the You Matter Marathon asks people to do that makes them feel better in the world. And that is sharing these cards, You Matter cards, with other individuals that they interact with. And we mail people 30 cards for free, no matter where they are in the world. So that's been our manifestation of these beliefs and mission for the past 6 years. This will be our 6th year. So we now know through research, both quantitative and qualitative, that when people share these cards, their own sense of well-being, happiness, gratitude, and connection to others increases. And we know that through surveys year after year. And we did a survey with Bucknell University also. We can only really research the people who give out cards because we don't have access, unfortunately, in any meaningful quantities to the people who receive cards. We know experientially their reaction, but we don't have formal data. But we do know that when people participate, their lives become more happier and fulfilling, and they feel more significant themselves.
Yeah, and I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about your experience with it, because you have given these cards out, I'm sure more than once, but there was an initial experience. Tell me about that.
Yes. The initial experience that really catalyzed my ambition to bring this forth into the world happened in a grocery store. Actually, it was about 5 or 6 years ago. I was standing behind a woman in a grocery store at the checkout line, and she was telling the cashier about her recent struggles. And she said with incredible emotion that her husband just lost his job and her son was battling addiction. And she literally said, I do not know how I'm going to make it through the holidays. And my heart ached for her. And I wasn't sure how to help. Should I offer to pay for her groceries or ask for her husband's resume? So I didn't do anything at that moment. It wasn't until we were both returning our carts at the same time. And I just thought, go for it, Cheryl. So I went up to her and I said, I'm so sorry. I couldn't help it over here. You're going through a really hard time right now. I'd like to give you something. And I gave her a You Matter card. And she immediately started to cry. And she said, you have no idea what this means to me. And she asked if we could hug. And we did. And then I went back to my car and I started to weep. And it was then that I realized, oh my goodness, it was such a powerful feeling of connection at a human to human level. I thought, I can't just be the only person giving these cards out. And just, it's my nature. I'm like, it's like, when you find a great pair of shoes, you want to tell other people, or you watch a great TV show, you're like, you want other people to watch it. I felt like that with these cards. I'm like, I have to get other people to do this and feel this and have this kind of impact. So that was the catalytic, story or moment. And my greatest wish is I could find that woman and let her know what that moment has spawned. But I of course, it would be not possible. But hopefully she'd be very proud of her role in this global movement. We're now in 85 or 6 countries, which is amazing.
Was there a specific pivotal moment in your life that made that resonate so strongly for you, that experience of seeing someone struggle and just showing up for them?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I'll answer it in 2 ways. One is when I was first given a card, it was from a colleague who gave me a card kind of out of the blue, and it went right through me. And I've asked myself, because that's what spawned me wanting to get these cards and give them. And I think what I realize, Amy, is that I and maybe many people kind of live with an unconscious question of, do we matter? We don't even know we have the question until somebody kind of answers it for us. And I think I had struggled, honestly, with that question throughout my life. And I actually wrote a book called Where Have I Been All My Life, about my journey to recognize my own significance and what that path was. And that was well before the marathon. And, I remember just different times in childhood and summer camp experiences where I was desperately homesick. And I didn't really know that I mattered. I knew what I needed to do to get other people to think I was significant, like the kind of things that a lot of women actually feel like they have to earn their love and belonging from performing, from being a certain weight, from being kind, from putting other people first. So I knew how to do that, but I didn't really know that I mattered independent of how I make other people feel, or the grades I got, or the salary I made, or the size dress I wore. I don't think I knew that. And I don't think a lot of people know that they are worthy of belonging and love, regardless of anything, because they're a human being on this planet. So I think when I got this message, and it was so beautifully unadorned, it made me want to give it to other people who I think many of us, especially today, are walking around feeling marginalized, afraid, We practically, been primed these last 2 years to stay away from each other, that the other is scary for a whole host of reasons. And that terrifies me. What that terrifies me, and it saddens me. So many people are suffering right now. We know incidents of loneliness, anxiety, depression, suicide. This is, to me, the most essential message of our time right now, is being able to give and receive this message: you matter. And it does start with us recognizing our own worth. But you know what? We all need to be reminded of it. We all need to be reminded. So sorry if that was long-winded, but that's my answer, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I appreciate the authentic emotion that is accompanying that part of the conversation. And what you just did so beautifully, and this was a question I had intended to ask you, and you sort of answered it earlier. Before we started the podcast, you mentioned that it was important medicine. And I love the concept of medicine. And what you just did was to articulate for us what's ailing us and why this is important medicine. So thank you for laying that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
How common in your work with leaders is this feeling that you just described of, obviously you're an accomplished human being, you've done a lot of work in your life. And at the time when You Matter came along, you were already doing your work in the world. How common is this in your work with other leaders, this feeling of, what's my significance?
Oh, it's a great question. Again, most of my work, not all, but a lot of it is with women. And I think this is a common theme. And sometimes it doesn't even get named as mattering. It certainly gets named as a lack of confidence and a lack of kind of a belief in one's own power and significance, and that it's okay to have an opinion and assert an opinion. It's okay to set a boundary. It's okay to ask for a raise. It comes up a lot with the women I work with about how do they be their most whole self at work or almost anywhere in their life. And I think the origin of that is like, do I matter? Like, do I matter? And the real question is, if I knew that I mattered, what would I do? If I knew that I mattered, even if I failed, even if my opinion was wrong, even if I don't get that raise, if I knew that I matter, what a great, I want to say insurance policy to have at your core, that sense of significance to oneself. Well, heck, then we can, really have some fun, because it's not all as, just fraught. It's like, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm a leader, I'm giving, I'm serving, but I matter independently of all of it. So I think it is inherent in most of the work that I do professionally. But again, it doesn't always get articulated as succinctly as we're talking about it now, but it's there for most people. And I also believe that most people want to know that they show up and that somebody cares, that their existence at work matters to others. Like, most people want to make a difference. Whether, no matter what that work is, whether it's making a hamburger or working at NASA, most people want to feel like their time, their labor makes a difference, and that they're being them. They show up, and then other people think, thank you. You do matter.
One of the things I was thinking about as you were talking, and we talked about women leaders, Amy brought that up because, you work so significantly with women leaders. One of the things I've been thinking about too is young people who have grown up in the social media age, where when you're looking at images, because what we post on social media is these things of perfection, these things of, a life that looks perfect in some ways, that actually, if we talk about illnesses, right, has this incredible and almost immediate capacity to diminish the self, right? You go on and you can scroll on how many likes somebody else has, what they've posted. And we've been talking about it as medicine. And You almost talked about giving out these cards becomes like an insurance policy. We're in the world of vaccines now. I am almost imagining, because I see the impact on young people too, the levels of anxiety that are stemming from not feeling like enough because of the world that they've grown up in. And that, one of the ways, like we talk about it as medicine, it's a preventative medicine. Is it almost like getting a good vaccine to really participate in these activities so that you can continue to reinforce your own self-worth in a world that you're living in that feels like it's constantly assaulting your sense of self.
So true, Adina. I call some of that contingent mattering. We believe like we matter only if we have this curated life of perfection, having the best vacation, the best skin, the best job, or whatever it is. And I can't imagine the pressure on younger people. And you're right. I love your drawing on the analogy and drawing it further. I do think that messages like this, that anything that can affirm one's own belief in themselves and their inherent just right to be here, like that's fortifying. And we all need each other. There isn't really a language for us that really gets at what I think the alchemy of giving and receiving this message. There is, I believe, in some African language, there's a word called Ubuntu, which I believe means I am because of you. And that's the closest that I have come to appreciate what this is when we give people. It's recognizing our interdependence. We need and are needed by each other. So I need to feel like I matter. And sometimes I need you to tell me I do. And then when I do, then I can give to you. And it becomes a self-fulfilling and positive, virtuous cycle. It becomes a virtuous cycle. And for young people today to get that reinforced to them is so important. And that's why we have a lot of schools. The heartening part is when people sign up to participate in the You Matter Marathon, they can do it as an individual and receive 30 cards for free, or they can do it as a group. And we have a lot of schools throughout the world participate because this aligns so well with character-based education, anti-bullying efforts, and it goes on and on. Kindness clubs. I just had a student council representative contact me from Kentucky about the cards. So yes, young people, yes, need this message to give it and receive it, to get out of themselves. Social media can be so self. And need to let's look at the other people.
I'm curious to know, when you give the card out and it says you matter. When we give that out, what are we saying? You matter to whom? How should we think about mattering?
Well, I don't know how to answer how should we think about it. The way I think about it is, and it's interesting, Amy, because there's nothing else on the card. And often people turn it over when they get it to see, are you selling something? What's the catch? And they say, no, it's complete. And what I'm saying when I shared this card is I'm reminding somebody of their inherent significance because they're a human being. I'm saying you are significant, you have worth, you belong. That's what I intend to convey when I share a card. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'm not even saying you matter to me. And I'm not even saying, and I've said this and it might sound a little weird when I say it, but I think saying you matter is to me even more powerful than saying I love you. Because I love you is a beautiful thing and goodness knows we need and want to hear that. If I say I love you, it's a statement about me. And if I don't love you, it doesn't mean you're less lovable. It's just I'm saying that something about me. And what I love about saying you matter is it's independent of me, and it's just a truth. It's just a truth that we forget. It's true. This is a fact that you matter because you're a human being. Even I can think of people who I may not agree with on any issue, but I would assert that they matter. I would assert that every person, every sentient being matters.
Yeah, I love that sentiment. And I think we talked a little bit earlier before we started recording about the giver of the card and their own feelings about mattering. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you that when people commit to doing this, to sharing these cards, and it doesn't have to be with a stranger, for goodness sakes. I don't have put any expectation on people. You give it as you feel moved to. That doing it will change how you feel about yourself. And we've had people say, I mean, one of our quotes from the first year I'll never forget is, I see people differently. I see myself differently. That was one of the first from the 2016, the first year somebody said that quote, and we've used it because it just gets down to it. That's what we want to create. I see other people differently. I see myself differently. That's what happens when people give out these cards.
Yeah, I love that. It feels like an expression of compassion and self-compassion. So this sort of all around compassionate way of looking at things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cheryl, can I ask you, how has this experience shifted because of the more virtual environments? I mean, I just think on a very practical level, the number of people that I physically see in a day has shrunk so significantly over these 2 years, right? And I'm not alone, right? Even us, like we've done this podcast before in person because we live near each other, and today we're on Zoom. So, how has that shifted, and what creative ways have people found to participate in this environment?
Yeah, super question. The good news is, actually our numbers went up last year, which was really interesting. And I thought they wouldn't, but they did. I think people were hungering for ways of doing something to connect when we couldn't connect. So couple of things. One, we have a digital card. So when you sign up, in fact, Amazon last year became our first organization that we're aware of that did a purely digital global You Matter Marathon within Amazon. And they had a great experience. In fact, we shared a blog post about their experience. So when you sign up, you get access to a digital card. So you can be sharing cards as you wish digitally without risking any in-person contact. Another creative thing that people have done from the beginning, but even more so since the pandemic, is leave cards in places where they know people who need to see them will find them. So whether that's, sometimes a gas station credit card holder, and then the next person will get the card, or an ATM machine, or just leaving them just in doctor's offices. When we're interacting with people, and we are, even if it's less, there's so many people, or mailing them. We have a lot of people who will mail these to prisons, to nursing homes. So wherever your imagination goes, who in your life needs to hear this message? Bus drivers. So people have gotten creative. We have the digital card. And again, you can always leave the card for someone who might see it on a park bench. I have a special affinity for the face-to-face, but I also let it go and know that somebody finding this card on a park bench could see it as a sign, and their whole day has changed. So I'm not overly attached to that. But when people start seeing the impact it has on others, you kind of get addicted to that. It's like a happy habit. I want to know, like in any moment, I can change somebody's day. I have seen it time and time and time again. But there are plenty of safe ways, Adina, comfortable ways for people to share without having personal contact.
Cheryl, how long has the You Matter Marathon, the cards been around? I mean, this is the first time hearing of it. How long has it been around?
This will be our 6th year. So the first one was 2016, and it was done as a project, Amy. So I had no ambition to have a nonprofit organization at all. It was that first year. Again, could we invite 333 people to share 30 cards, which would have been 10,000 cards out into the world? That was my question. Could I do that? And we blew through that. And I never expected this would have an international appeal. So, it's grown. And I still remember that first year when people who would sign up would be people who I didn't know. And I'm, wow, like, I guess somebody must have told somebody. And now it's like, we've had almost 200,000 people 200,000 people participate through the individuals and ambassador organizations. And as I said, 84, 85 countries. We just got Indonesia. And it just, yeah, it's amazing. So and it's through people like Adina being so kind to be both the sponsor and to share her platform and others. And we've gotten some good blog posts that have had an international appeal or audience. So I'm so grateful.
I have to ask this question. Has anybody translated the cards into other languages? Like, how many languages are the cards?
I know Hawaiian and Spanish, and we will do a Spanish card on when people ask for it, but that's all I know. So.
So we just talked about the beginnings of it. What's next for the You Matter Marathon?
So I'm proud to say that the first 5 years, this happened in November, and we did that because of logistics and because we love the connection with Thanksgiving in the States, that it's a time of expressing gratitude, and it worked well with schools and curriculums. So this year, since January, we have actually become kind of on demand, You Matter. So when people sign up any time of the year, they will now get cards mailed out to them. And that's a huge milestone for us. So we're no longer just relegated to November. So that's been a big, I'm grateful because people sign up all year long now without us having to market it, so to speak. So that tells us we've met a goal I didn't even know I had, which was to become, we're out there. So we're not making people wait 9 or 10 months to get cards, which is awesome. And then the other thing that we're going to be doing more of twofold is emphasizing that I matter also, that you matter, and we're happy to have you give out the cards, but we're going to be doing some more programming on how do you reinforce for yourself that you matter, even if no one ever gives you a card. So we're starting to do more communications and programming around self-care, self-compassion, because we do recognize that that's so important. And we want the people in our community, and we call them yummies, people who sign up to give out cards, yummies. We want our yummies to feel as wholesome and alive with this message also. So we're doing more in that regard. And that feels right and good.
Yeah, I love that. It's sort of a natural progression from the outward expression of mattering to the inward work of knowing that you have a place at the table.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think this piece, we were talking, I love how we've talked, like it can go both ways, right? Giving out cards can reinforce my own sense of mattering. And as that bucket inside me gets filled, I can actually feel more of it at the ready to flow forward, right? And I mean, I know I've personally had that experience. I'm sure the yummies have that experience, other yummies have that experience too of, as I become strengthened in my own sense of self, my own sense of mattering, as you said, I can get out of my own space in my own head and my concern about am I enough? And I now am able to give that message out even more freely and even more generously.
You said that so beautifully. That's so beautiful. If we're just telling other people they matter and we don't have that sense of fullness and truth that we believe it for ourselves, we will get burned out or resentful. I mean, that's not sustainable in the long term. And it is so much more wholesome when we come from that place of fullness ourselves, without a doubt. And then once you have it, like for yourself, you just can't almost bear it that other people don't. It's like you just can't bear it. It's like if your tummy is full and you see somebody hungry, it's like, no, like I want you to feel nourished and whole and full too. So yeah.
And the other thing I just want to say about that is I think this work is continuous work also, because even the most secure among us, even those of us who have developed a really strong sense of self, we all feel that vulnerability. Like it doesn't really go away, I've discovered. We are all going to have moments. We're going to know that we matter. We're going to feel strong and secure. Something's going to come into our universe that's going to ping us. And suddenly jeopardize that for a moment or bring that into question. And so the continuous work, right? This is a lifelong practice. And that is part of what it means to be part of that interdependent human race, is that we have to continue to support and reinforce each other this way.
So right. You get it so deeply, and you're so right. It's never done, because we're human and we are vulnerable. And this is why, people have their spiritual practices. They go to their church or synagogue or mosque regularly. We hear the same songs, we hear the same messages, but because we need to hear them. We have our positive practices, the meditation, walking, whatever people do, we do it because these are practices. And that's why this is a practice, because it does help us remember and it helps us remind people. And we all need it, for sure. It's a beautiful point.
So, Cheryl, as we're coming to a close here, talk to us a little bit about both how people can learn more and find out more about the You Matter Marathon and how they can access the cards and participate. And then also a little bit about Cheryl Rice leadership and how and what they can find you for in terms of Cheryl Rice leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Adina. Well, the You Matter Marathon is very simple to find. You go to youmattermarathon.com. You can sign up today as an individual or an ambassador, and your cards will be mailed out within 2 weeks, 30 cards for free. It's really important to know the cards are free. Please tell your friends. So that's the easiest way to participate in the marathon. We also have a Facebook community, You Matter Marathon, and we're on all the social media channels, except TikTok yet. I haven't quite had the courage to branch into TikTok, but if any of you listening do, please make a TikTok, You Matter TikTok, that would be great. And then for my business, CherylRiceLeadership.com, and my passion is helping women be leaders in their own lives. And I work with people in corporate settings and life transitions, and just helping them make their way in the world. And it's a privilege to do that. So, and I also do speaking engagements, a lot around the inner critic, and helping women turn down the volume on their inner critic and discover their inner champion. So, and you've been a glorious champion, Adina, from, as you said, it's been at least 3 years, maybe 4. And I'm just so grateful, because it's people like you who have the compassion and the ability and the determination to spread messages like this that we have been able to grow. So I'm so grateful. And now, Amy, your excellent questions were just such a delight and added so much richness to our conversation today. It feels like the first time almost I'm getting to talk about that and about this, and that doesn't happen all the time. So thank you both for your invitation and for showing up so beautifully today.
And
delight.
And thank you, Amy, for, yes, I have to say, and I always love that when, wow, that was a good question. And to be able to invite somebody who's been speaking about this a lot to speak it though for the first time. So thank you, Amy, for bringing that into the space for us. And to everybody who's listening, as a sponsor of the You Matter Marathon, we get our own sets of cards. And so every year we've put out there to the community is drop us a note if you'd like to participate as part of the Courage to Be Curious community. And you can drop that note through info@couragetobecurious.com. Send us a message through Instagram or Facebook. We'll get it in any of those ways. We're at Instagram at Courage to Be Curious. And we have our own page on Facebook. So we love to participate as a community, and you can get your own set of cards from us as well. And then we share some of the experiences people are having. So please continue to participate. And if for any reason you either can't access a deck of cards, or maybe you find yourself in a moment or a time where you don't have a card with you, the message still works, right, Cheryl? The message still works even without the card. And so we would love for you to dedicate yourself this month of the marathon to, as Cheryl was saying, beginning to really build that habit into your daily life, that every single day can we carve out a space in our mental energy and our personal time to say, this is where I'm directing my energies right now, because this is my contribution into creating the kind of world that Cheryl described. Right. So we want to invite you to do that. We want you to invite you to participate and kind of follow us on social media, as we're going to be doing and extending this message throughout the month and our social media. and to really becoming ambassadors and continue to share. Maybe you know somebody in one of the few countries the You Matter Marathon has not yet reached, and you will be an ambassador to continue to spread the message there. So thank you for listening. Join us in participating. Thank you, Cheryl, for being here.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
And Amy, again, for beautiful guidance in this show. And we will be back with everybody with podcast episodes all throughout the month where we are carrying forward this theme of You Matter and the importance of appreciating people around us.